Right now.
You are listening to the Project Restoration Podcast.
I've been trying not to go off the deep end. Give me a reason. I've been trying not to.
Project Restoration Podcast with Stephen Tolliver
and Landis Clemens.
Guys, what's going on today? I mean, what is it, 111?
It feels more like 9/11, but
Yeah.
it's 111, 111/21. I was reading on my feed today that a gorilla tested positive for COVID, so you know the year's starting off wrong when the animals in the zoo can't stay healthy. But welcome everyone to the Project Restoration Podcast. This is our inaugural podcast, and I'm your host Stephen Tolliver, along with my co-host Landis Clemens.
Landis, son of Lawrence.
Yes.
You may have known me for La Soul Radio, but yeah, it's crazy. We are in some sort of we're in a time where we're in a time beyond time. Just to take you there, not to leave you there, but to take you there real quick. The people, we don't want to call them, I don't know what we call them, energy people. We don't know if we call them hippies. I don't know if we call them astrologers, diviners, kooks. But they say that even remote viewers and psychics can only see to a certain time in our numbered year system. And after a certain time, I think it's around 2017 or something like that, 2015, they're saying that they can't see nothing. So they're even the people who have the weird stuff going on, even have the channeling and all that stuff, even they can't hack into with their spirit guides. They can't even hack into, could it be, church lady?
Air quotes.
Right.
But to not scare off any of our listeners, because I know you're wondering. Just honestly, think about all the sci-fi and dystopian movies you've seen over the last 20 years, and just imagine the fact that you were living in one. You have your Matrix type movies, you have your Hunger Games, and your Stephen King novels. We literally are living in two. I think, what is it, The Stand, and what's the one about the crazy president?
There was I remember
Dead Zone.
That's
it. But honestly, we're living in a situation where it feels like life has imitated our art. And, our podcast is really dedicated to helping you restore what you've lost. Because in all this change and in all this upheaval and chaos, not only over the past year, because really this past year has been a culmination of a lot of different things that have been working toward a tipping point or a threshold, we're hoping to help you get it back. We're hoping to help you reconnect on a spiritual level, a metaphysical level, just help you really understand really where we are in time, but also help you regain your humanity back. I mean, we are in a situation where we're reacting a lot. There's a lot that happened this year. I mean, obviously there's...
And you weren't where you thought you should have been a year ago. Yeah. This is a wake-up call to what you've lost years ago, decades ago. So don't think you were perfect last year. Don't think that you were a perfect American. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff and prophecy started happening to mess up your groove. This is a restoration of things that if you were honest, if this had not been a year like it had been, you would have never stopped and turned around and fixed yourself. So this is what they call a serendipitous or some sort of pivotal year.
Providential.
A providential type of junction that allows us to take inventory and to go into burlap.
Right.
And ashes.
And I'll say this, I'm thankful for this year. This year revealed a lot. Or actually, this past year revealed a lot for me. But what I love is that our structures failed, right? Our government failed, our medical system failed. There were our education system stopped. Everything that man has created and put in place as something to uphold has literally come to a grinding halt. And what was left was the fact that God, the Creator, God continued to allow the sun to rise and the seasons to go. And when we were forced to sit still, some of us were able to come to a realization that there's more to life than what we originally thought. So with that being said, with that sobriety that you've enjoyed during this year, as we come into a new year, we want to encourage you to continue in that sobriety and understand that, there's more to life than what we've been experiencing. We had 385,000 people dead because of COVID. We saw a breaking point as far as the racial divide in America, where we have been reaching that point and hurtling towards it. We saw economic collapse. And in addition to all that, if you survive 2020, understand that you're here because you're supposed to be here. Right? And if you're here because you're supposed to be here, you're here for such a time as this. This podcast, we are here for such a time as this. And understand that even though these traumatic events have occurred, some of you may be experiencing what we call survivor's remorse or survivor's
guilt.
Survivor's guilt, right? And what is survivor's guilt, right? We're throwing these terms around. Survivor's guilt is events that result in a mental condition that occurs when the survivor basically feels guilty for carrying on, for living, right? So some of you may have lost loved ones, right? There's a good chance at least 1% of the population perished up until today, right, due to COVID. In addition to the 150,000 people who die every year, right? That may make you think or make you wonder, where you are. Really the world is in the midst of existential crisis. We're all wondering why we're here. But,
where are we? We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Gmail, the SoundCloud. We are soon to be on YouTube. We are in the space. Just to back up a little bit, we are going from 2020 to 2021. We're going from the year of blinding clarity and cataclysmic change to a year beyond, like I said, in the time of beyond time. So nobody really has a hold over it. Some of us believe that we are actually entering the Aquarian age, where we go from an element of water to an element of air. So an element of believing in faith to an element of knowing and realization.
Can I touch on that for a second?
Go ahead.
It's something that I observed that really was disturbing to me during 2020. I'm a Christian, right? I'm unapologetically Christian, right? Unapologetically black, unapologetically Christian. It's two things you're gonna bury me as, right? And what I saw throughout the year was disturbing to me because I saw Christians scared, right? Afraid. And to me, Christianity is not a religion for punks. It's not a faith for punks. But I saw that this year. I saw people literally run away from the idea of coming together because of COVID. I get that, right? At the same time, once we were able to go back to work and go back to to Walmart, everybody went. But on Sundays, the worship houses stayed closed. And what that kind of indicated to me was, there's a verse in the Bible in 2 Timothy where it talks about how in the last days people will have a form of godliness but deny its power, right? And it's talking about people who literally are adhering to materialism and wealth. But what that also means too is that there are people who literally go around professing to have a faith, but that faith has no power over their lives, right? They conform to the pattern of this world, and when that happens, you see what you saw this past year, right? You had people who don't believe in God clamoring and scared and running around. You had people who claim to believe in God and who are faithful church members who are not, who literally they're afraid to shake your, to fist bump you or even get near you. At the same time, when the government says, you can't worship, they don't worship. When the government says you can go to work, they go to work. There's an incongruence there, right? That
is a good point. I'm glad you brought up incongruence, because if you're looking at this visually, when people talk, I see things when they're talking, and it pushes my hologram, I guess, as what they're saying happens in my brain. And that incongruency is the dimensional self, is the different dimensions of a person. So if somebody says, if you around this person less than 6 feet, you're going to get sick. And if you're around them for more than 15 minutes, you're going to get what they got. Even though there's no proof, and even though a lot of the things that they say on TV, like Fauci says, don't even have biological basis, and the stuff doesn't even make sense. I don't see how, like, there's nobody who actually graduated in biology who's going to tell you that a face mask is going to keep you from catching an airborne, man-made, RNA-attacking virus. But that's cool because it's working, because we understand the power of placebo. So if you know how the devil works, and like I said, like, I'm a Hebrew, but if I remember you being on the Book of Jasher at like 13, so you kind of already have a scholarship for Hebrew when you're ready. But I mean, just saying,
It's on the shelf.
right? So I mean, if you really want to go there and really reread your library, it's gonna scare you how much of the game was already laid out for you. This is just a thinning of the herd, and you'll thank them later, because you don't want those kind of people around you when you got to make decisions when they're really on an animal level of thinking, and they know how to be pleasant. They know how to not rock the boat. They know how to just go. They brick Tamlins, man. They're people like me, because I always show up on time and I'm agreeable. And, that's what it is.
I pay my taxes.
Yeah. That's what it is.
And it's funny you mentioned that, man. I think right now, again, and for those of you who are just getting on you and getting to know us, we go way back. Landis and I, we've known each other for probably almost a lifetime.
Yeah.
So we grew up watching The Matrix and watching different movies like this, or watching
Simpsons,
right? But in it,
grammatical Simpsons fans, grammatical down to it's the writing of the Simpsons, not so much what you saw.
Right.
That was Family Guy. That's funnier.
Yeah.
But the writing of the jokes and how it makes you think and what they're really saying.
We grew up with that, and one thing we would always talk about was the fact that, if you look at the history of Christianity, right, there's an incongruence there, right? Mm-hmm. Because ultimately you're dealing with a religion that at one point in time was the enemy of the state, and at some point it becomes the religion of the state, and then the church begins to acquiesce to everything that the government's asking for or demanding. So that's actually diametrically opposed to how it started. So we talked about this at one point in time. We used to always talk about this, like, what would happen if there was a time where the government said you couldn't worship or you couldn't come together, or better yet, Christians were persecuted, which, by the way, across the world, with the exception of the U.S., Christians are being persecuted and hunted down. There are tens of thousands dying every day. We don't talk about that, right? That's not something that makes CNN news. It doesn't scroll at the bottom. It's not breaking news.
Africa?
but
sorry.
But with that in mind, I bring it back to this. I don't think Christians in the West understand what time it is. Like, I don't think that we understand, like, that there is an attack. There's a nefarious attack on the church. There's a nefarious attack on faith. There's a nefarious attack on even the idea of God, because for the last 20, 30 years, right, we've been moving away from the idea of a world that actually believes in one truth or ultimate truth and toward the idea of many truths. So it's a war of ideas that's actually translating into how we live each day, right? And I think that Christians don't understand, like, we really don't understand. People who call themselves Christians, right? People who subscribe to this faith don't really understand what time it is. We think that we're actually living in like 1970, 1980 in terms of like climate toward religion, but in reality, we're living in a post-Christian society,
right, and
we have gotten left behind, and it shows.
That shows that actually overlaps the crazy little intro I had about time beyond time. Because you can't just use your little manuals anymore. We're really on we're on another level.
When something says post, that means you got left behind. Post-Christian society, post-Christianity, right? Generation Z, the current people who are driving culture right now, because right now our culture centers around what 15-year-olds like, right? So the people who we're centering our culture around, right? Language. 15 to 25-year-olds, that's Generation Z. They're post-Christian. They're not raised with the idea of any kind of faith. Everything for them is postmodern, right? So It's about the idea of I got my truth, you got your truth. And you see this right on social media. Social media has become a platform to perpetuate falsehoods, right? We saw this last week, right? On the 6th of January 2021, right? 20,000 people showed up to the Capitol based on something they had been hearing online. And they showed up in droves, stormed the Capitol, and literally had, what was it, the War of 1812? They had a reenactment of the War of 1812 where the Capitol got sieged, right? All that happened because of these echo chambers that we call social media, where people get to say one thing and then hear back what they want to hear and indoctrinate themselves.
Do we know what that really is, Stephen? Do we understand what we're playing with? Do we understand what we look like? Do you ever see yourself get played like literally in a play or in some sort of proverb or in some sort of story in the Bible? And you're like, that's me. Like, that's what's going on. It's like, you don't understand what this is.
It's my 20s.
You don't, right? It's my 20s. You don't understand that this is a black mirror. You don't understand that this is a black mirror. This is a black mirror. If you never understand that you are playing with witchcraft, then you can never get mad at the guys who are really wielding the stuff at the way it's supposed to be used at the highest power on the dark side. You'll never catch up. Unless you start to realize that you can laugh at yourself, but you need to also be proactive. Okay, we are the dumb ones. We are the consumers. We are the suckers. We are the ones that everybody's waiting to use and put these things in our hands and around our children, because when they turn it on, it's gonna do like the beginning of the Lord of the Rings, which is to interlock into the darkness. So what I'm saying is J.K. Rowling has gotten these children reading 2,000-page books when they wouldn't even read a 20-page book, because of the power of witchcraft and the power of sorcery. This music is actually filling up the prisons because of the power of witchcraft and sorcery. It's actually got girls really thinking about being Cardi B when they grow up, instead of because they flunked out of college and needed to hurry up and get it before they hit the wall. No, it's they're really building curriculums for this. And it's because of the power of witchcraft. And the church doesn't understand the power of witchcraft. When they talk about the Jezebel spirit, and these things are actually breaking down churches left and right. And it's because everybody's into institution. We want to go to our football games. We want to send our children to these great colleges, and we want to go to these games and say our children are involved. We don't understand who we're holding hands with. We don't understand who we're in bed with. And we don't understand that even though it seems like we have faith, we've invested our power into these different sides, i.e. the left hand of Satan, the left hand path. It's the left hand of God, but it's the left hand path, which is the path of, I'm so proud of what I am, but I won't tell you what I am in public. That's why I got to go to my lodge.
Message.
And I got to go to my little secret meetings to do what I'm doing. But I'll show up to your stuff, and I'll be a part of your stuff, even in leadership. I'll even sit on the front rows, and I'll give money, and I'll show up to the meetings to show to show that other part, to show how you need to respect me and give me the respect. And, just different type of stuff. I know how to play that. I know how to play your systems, but you ain't involved in my system. So I got the upper hand because I'm on the left-hand side. So the average churchgoer doesn't understand that. And it doesn't even matter. That means the average Hebrew doesn't understand that. So let's not try to make it seem like I'm from a secret order of Jedi. It's like, no, we still got slackers. We still got people who don't get it. But even when we were children, we're probably late. We're probably 10, 20 years late on this podcast, because even when we were children, we were seeing people come through. Like, that's Palpatine. That is Chancellor Palpatine.
Right.
Keep it down. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
It was a joke. It was a joke to us because they hadn't materialized yet. And I think now, even now, to middle-aged men who obviously have watched a lot of TV as kids, but also read a lot of books and have done a lot of observing. And all these observations have come to light, right? All these observations have now become assessments and accurate assessments of society and how society is transformed, right? And speaking of how society is transformed, we talk about men, right? I recently wrote a book called It Is Not for Kings. We talk about men and how men are being broken down systematically to not be men and to not serve the role that men have in society, right? And in this book, I outline how basically there are three challenges that men deal with, and that's the challenge of women, material, and apathy. and how we as men have to rise to the occasion to become more than just what we are now, right? What we're seeing is a systematic deconstruction of not only manhood, but also families. Now, you mentioned the Jezebel spirit. Now, I wanted to stop you right there to have you speak a little bit more on that, because that's something that's so prevalent in society. Vehicles like Beyonce and the whole entire Live movement, that has literally deconstructed families. Right, society actually turned men and women against each other to the point where now we don't even have we're not even a dyad anymore. Right, there's not even two coming together to be one. It's literally us competing against each other, and the divide and conquer dynamic that exists between men and women.
You know what the problem is, Stephen, is where we're in a shire and we're not understanding how Middle Earth works. We're living in the Shire, but we don't want to understand how Middle Earth works.
For those who don't understand those references, my brother, would you go ahead and break it down for them? Because not all is good watching Lord of the Rings.
So basically, it's a chess move with your life. Things are being done on higher realms that are more expansive and far-reaching. So when they make moves, they're moving as a macrocosm, and you're living as a microcosm. So there's really a very hard emotional and psycho-spiritual translation that you need to do to understand how, when people are making big moves, how it's going to affect you and how it's going to trickle down to you. And I think that we're finding ourselves in an emotional and in a psychological stress, and we're fighting each other because of the pressure. And we're not seeing how we are being played on a bigger perspective. And that's what I think survivor's remorse is. It's like, I don't even know what was happening. All I know is I'm here, and it took out everybody else. And with the first things, one thing that really hit me when I did my research on it is that the big thing is that people either feel bad about the things they did or the things that they didn't do, and they feel bad about their decisions. So what I thought in my weird mind is, the first thing I wrote down was game theory, because the first thing that happens is when you lose a game, and people are watching and you're like playing football, your favorite football game, you lose to somebody, you hate the way, like, your decisions, the way you left your game plan, the way you got emotional, the way you started listening to people, your decisions, like, you could have played better, but you let your emotions and stuff get a hold of you, and you left your game plan.
And see, that's where I think we are right now as far as the church. We talk about the institution or the idea of the church. Mm-hmm. I honestly, and I've been telling this to church leaders that I deal with for months now, man, like, okay, do you realize, like, when it's okay, quote unquote, to come back, when you get the green light to go back to your worship services, you're not going to find any of your members, because they've lost confidence in the idea of God's power being operating through the church, the institution of the church. When in reality, the church is a body; it's not an institution, right? And people are beginning to see that. I think that there's actually an awakening in the faith community, and the fact that you realize, like, I don't have to be affiliated to some mega whatever, or be affiliated to the most recent brand of ice cream church building or whatever, or the most dynamic minister, in order to be able to truly serve God. And I think that has been a shackle that's breaking. But I think there's a new community, there's an awakening going on in the faith community, and I do believe that, we talk about Project Restoration. I'm looking at how that's going to be restored, because you're right. You don't want people who a person says, "Hey, I am the cow." No, I am the cattle, right? No, you don't want that. You do not want that, because those are people who've already.
That's the old way, and the new way is knowing. So imagine going from "I'm following" because it seems like everybody's going with it
herd mentality
to like, no, this is what it is, and this is. That's what I think Isaiah chapter 2 is all about. It was everybody, all nations will flow unto it, the mountain of the house of God of Jacob, mountain of the house of the God of Jacob. It's like pretty much there's not going to be an argument, because it's going to be too evident, because everybody's minds are actually going to like the cloud and ether and just, look, I'm not a retard. Like, everybody's going to turn up intellectually, basically.
Right.
So this is what all this pressure's about. This is the Skeksis, the evils are about getting you to look down, when I'm saying you need to be looking up.
Right.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. And again, we talked about sobriety. What is it to be sober? The Bible talks about being sober-minded. for a very long time, we talk about Christianity being a faith of compliance. When in reality, it's bigger than that, right? We talk about how on the and what I've seen growing up, and I'm only 40, but what I've seen growing up is that for the most part, you have two classes. You have two kinds of people who call themselves Christians. You have those that are content to live at the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, right? I got just enough, and I'm not going to strive for more, right? And then you have those that are like, okay, I got it, and now I'm gonna go ahead and get me some of these here cars and stuff, because God want me to have everything here on earth, baby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And both of those are off, because God wants us to self-actualize, right? He wants us to be. That's what following Christ is to be like Him, right? So to be like Christ is not to be like the world. That's where I think we're headed, and I think the sobriety is going to take us there, because you're realizing, man, like, if I trust in God and I believe God is the creator of all things, and He has providence over my life, why am I afraid, right? Why do I live in fear? Why do I walk around in fear? Why am I afraid of everything? And I trust God. Otherwise, I mean, like the heathens don't. They should be afraid, right? The Gentiles go after such things. This is what Jesus says, right? So the idea of just being content with, okay, well, I can't go here, I can't do this. Like, no, man, no. We need to come out, and I think
I think you're gonna get what you want. I think you're gonna get what you want. I just think I think that you grew up a pleasant life, and you like social nature things, and you think you like the village, and you don't like to leaving the people out. But when it comes to things of purity, you're going to have to deal with the shaking. You're going to have to deal with the thinning. You're going to have to deal with the figs falling off. You're going to have to look at the new fig tree like, oh, damn. And you're going to look and be like, well, guys, let's go ahead and everybody file forward. Let's go ahead and there's a lot of space. Let's everybody move up to the front.
Step over him.
Right.
Step over him.
No, I mean, I'm sad. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Is like, that is the duality. The duality. Yeah, we're going to go to the woods. There's going to be polar shifts, and there's going to be pole shifts, and you probably don't want to be in Houston for that. And we're probably going to be trekking for days and weeks, and there's probably going to be some ugly stuff that we're going to see, because people just can't handle pressure right. And then they don't trust in the community to take care of them. So they're going to take, and they're going to force, and you're going to see it. And there's going to have to be a time where it's going to have to get brutally put down just to keep everybody else from turning into Hans, right? So there is that like Lost, or that there's like a theme of shows where it's always, what happens is this, and we all left here, and then they ain't got nothing no more, and then people just switch, no matter what they were, and then they just turn into whatever, and they just that's us. That's us. And so when people gotta go, man, you think about it, like, think about the people you've seen in your life growing up, and just the characters you've seen develop, and it's like, imagine pressure hitting them. You don't want them around you, because they're too typical. And it's just like, so there's gonna have to be like this thinning, that like this core of people that you can go through stuff with. They call me Touchy James. Touchy James.
Sorry, y'all. That's an aside.
That was just wrong in 8th gradish. But no, guys. It is not fair for kings. We're gonna give you a reverse introduction of ourselves. Me and Stephen are like the yin and yang Key and Peele of interdimensional expression. So, like, he went to college and actually graduated and got degrees and got to two daughters and a wife and life, and went to Abu Dhabi and led the NAACP and just resume things. And then I kind of went into a blue phase. I like to call it contemporary metropolitan phase.
You would know Landis in all kind of different corners of the country. Landis has toured the West Coast as I wouldn't say prophet, but more of a soothsayer. I don't know. Speaker of truth.
I was called apostle.
Yeah. So yeah, they know him. They know him up in the Seattle and San Francisco area, and also in Austin. But we travel two very different paths at the same time, following the same guiding light. And again, it's funny. You know, I'll call him. You know, check on him, and I may be in another country, and he'll be like, "Man, you called at the right time." You know, or he'll check on me, and I mean, and again, you know, we really met at a very interesting time, and got to know each other at a very interesting time in college, because a lot of these things that we're talking about now were beginning to manifest themselves then, and it's taken about 20 years to see these things play out. And you know, honestly, when it makes the news, it's not news. It's just them showing you what's happening. But I mean, the stuff has been happening. You know, the constant breaks, the shock testing. You know, as you see society become more and more degraded, and you see really just the concept of humanity change. We've witnessed this, and so have you. If you look back and you really kind of pay attention, there's been a progression, and I mean, people react differently. I mean, obviously, you had your evangelicals and your far right wingers who were like, "Oh, America's going to hell in a handbasket." Well, no, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, but you know, America is a country like any other country. It's nothing about America that makes it any less vulnerable to some of these ills, because countries are made of people, and if the people become corrupt, then the country will become corrupt. We see that in the Bible, right? With Israel. So I mean, this in all the other nations that God judges. So you know, what we see right now are just really judgments being pronounced on this country and on the society that we live in. But what all this should do, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, Project Restoration, what we're hoping to do is restore people back to God. Help people understand that, you know, there's no the donkey or the elephant can't save the country, right? It's the Lamb of God, it's Christ. So here's the thing: is that, you know, we're not. This is not a political podcast by any means. We may mention things that are political. We may mention things that may be controversial, but ultimately, what we're looking to do is really point people to a higher power, point people to the source of their salvation, the source of what can really create radical change in their lives. Because ultimately, regardless of who wins the election or what house is flipped or whatever's happening, you know, every day you wake up is a new year. Every day you wake up is a new opportunity to change, and every day is a new opportunity for you to be what you were called to be. Yeah. You don't wait on other people to do that. And I hope that this year has been a reminder of that, or if not, or just a swift kick to the head to help you understand, like, you know, nobody's coming. Like, no one's coming to save anyone. That's not how it works. I mean, we all, literally the world this year experienced what our brothers and sisters in New Orleans experienced 15 years ago with Hurricane Katrina.
I don't understand what the big deal is. I'll be honest. I don't understand what the big deal is. If you were in Katrina, what are you going through this year that's so bad? Isn't it all relative? If you read your Bible for real, and you look at and you put down what the Hebrews have been through, chased out of Jerusalem, went into Africa, sold into slavery all over the world at the same time, taken from America over into Europe and into Africa, taken from Africa over into America, taken from Ireland down to Jamaica. So I don't see what the big deal is. How do you reverse a worldwide conspiracy like the conspiracy of Psalms 83? Do you think men in a worldwide Confederate conspiracy are going to all of a sudden at one time decide to rescind their hands? Or do you think it's going to take some, what did you call it, providential intercession? How pretty is it supposed to be? Maybe God is actually beating the shit out of the Hebrews' enemies. Maybe he is fulfilling his end of the bargain like he said he would in Obadiah, like he said he would in Ezekiel, like he said he would in Isaiah. So I think a lot of people need to just chill out and see, because if they've never ran an entire universe before, if they've never created an entire planet full of people before and understood how to do gentrification and understood how to take, okay, this oppression's stopping, and we're going to re-exact everything back on these people sevenfold, just like I said. We're going to wipe these people out of the world, and these people are going to be brought down, and there will be no wisdom amongst their wise men, just like I said. I don't see what the problem is. I love watching Donald Trump. Donald Trump, to me, is the Edomite of Edomite. That nigga is Esau, as far as I'm concerned. That nigga is so entertaining to watch. The narcissism, the pride, the way he uses the hate of his people as energon,
catalyst,
as like vibranium. As something that is like a beyond a cash crop, like our freaking oil, man. He uses it, and he does it so well. Has he done anything violent? No. He knows how to use that fuel of his people. The people that were, let's not get too deep into it, but the people, if you read your Bible, okay? I think it's in Genesis, Doc, for crying out loud. The man was mad. He was so mad that he purposely went and married all the Canaanite tribes, which were, let's go there, Nephilim tribes, which were tribes that had the Zamumim, the Gibborim, right? All the Imims, which were all the Nephilim tribes, all the demonic, fallen angel, tainted blood tribes on purpose. He vexed Jacob on purpose. He vexed them with the wives he had, the Midianites and the different things. So when people were split, we knew who was what. We knew who had tails. We knew who were born with horns.
He's referring to Esau, y'all.
So, I mean, we knew what was going on, but in America, we have re-alchemized, and that's why we brought up that esoteric scripture a few months ago, Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 27. God is going to bring a new thing onto this earth. He's going to what? He's going to take the seed of Jerusalem, he's going to take the seed of Israel, sow it to the seed of Jerusalem. He's going to sow that with the seed of man, and he's going to sow that with the seed of beasts. To me, that sounds like alchemy. That actually sounds like America. Before you go too crazy and too scientific, it kind of sounds like America. Because you could be part 50 Cent.
Melting pot.
Yeah, you could be part Boosie. You could be part Boosie.
Different kind of melting pot.
You could be, I'm just saying, the melting pot could be the most base with some of the most spiritual in the same bloodline, the same family. So we're actually working with some real, to me, alchemy is like one of the top levels of creation in physics. It's like showing you could be this and this and this and this in the same person and still come out good or bad. You know what I'm saying? Like it could still work out because you don't know how to take spirit and mix it with polycarbonate. You know what I'm saying? Potassium. Like this is a different level of when we're mixing bloods, which if you look at the Old Testament, wasn't recommended.
Wouldn't prescribed.
So now look at America. That's what I'm saying. Like when we talk about our spirituality, and I can see you got like this kind of like yearning, like this almost biblical, like, oh, for my people, like you got this thing, and I'm like, hey, nigga, calm down. Cause what you got to understand, there's a lot of alchemy. There's a lot of there's like the worst type of people that go to church sometimes, and like they got it in them, and then there's the best type of people. And then there's the best type of people who sell dope. Mm-hmm. And then there's the worst type of people. So it's just like there's such a high level of alchemy going on in America. We have like straight Nazi blood with Kenyans, you know what I'm saying? We got so much stuff going on right now. So there is going to be this one of the best way I can explain it is there's going to be a re-emulsification. And when the gamma radiation gets here, when the energy of the planet picks up, and the reason why some of these devils are acting real crazy because they know their time is short, because they literally know that electromagnetically they can't be here after a certain time biologically. That explains the chemtrails. That explains all the poisoning of the water. That explains all the genetic modification. That explains the all war. The fact that if you really just look into it, not even like a true scientist, if you just kind of looked into it, your water is being tampered with. Your food is being tampered with. Your air is being tampered with. So there's something or someone that's really trying to come at you at all angles. So when you see people falling apart, it's not so much that they suck. It's just that they falling apart because of all that pressure.
Slowly deconstructed.
That is the true warfare.
They were slowly sabotaged.
To your cells. That is the truth. Now, I want to get everybody to start thinking more like that, and you will not get lost, and you will not become like your heart won't fail you for fear, because if you're trying to aggregate everything, and this is too much, and it's too much pressure, and it's like no. Think about it. Whatever is coming at you is purely coming at you. So it wants to break you down, especially man and woman, because that is the cell that creates the cells, that creates the cells, that creates the cells. If I can break down that nuclear family, I can break down my enemy molecularly. How about that? Macrocosm, microcosm. They just found out that our cells actually are like different universes, and there's like cities inside of a cell. And everything is running like really, it ain't what you think it is no more. It ain't a couple things and a couple things and a couple. No, if they got more technology to look deeper in the cells, and they're like, no, nigga, this Wakanda up in here. It really does work like a city and like another world inside of each cell. So the demons and the fallen angels, which some people say in a higher level are neutral. And the devils and the demons and all and all that, they understand that level of physics. So when they come at you, they don't come at you as people who got attitude problems. They come at you as people who are looking to break you down on a level where everything works against itself. To dis-ease you means you kill yourself off.
There's no enemy inside, the enemy outside can do no harm. Or African proverb.
There it is.
No enemy within, the enemy without can do no harm. So everything is self-sabotage. Everything is from within. So, the diet, the psychological warfare that takes place, right? The level of stress, how we've sped up so much. Literally, the earth is moving faster than it has been in the past, right? I mean, everything is speeding up time, right? The absence of time. I mean, we work more than any other nation in the world, yet at the same time, we have less vacation time. What is that doing to our society, right? Yeah. The occupationally orphanized children that we teach in our school system, right? The movement towards social emotional learning is nothing more than raising kids. You're raising someone else's kids. We are becoming exactly like the Russian society we competed against 50, 60 years ago. When we talked about how they were, communist savages and this, that, and the other. In reality, we're doing the same thing.
You're there. This culture war that you're feeling, oh, it's so sad. And it's funny because I always bring it up, and I think when I say it, you're going to remember me bringing it up years ago. You know who has the best, ironically, take on America, what's going on right now? Bill O'Reilly, when he talks about the tale of two Americas, the culture war between cultural Marxism and conservatism. Conservatism would be your churchgoers. They may not be the best people in the world, but they know how to keep some sort of morale going, some sort of integrity.
They're good people.
Right?
Good people.
They're good people. And then there's cultural Marxisms, the ones who are going to get you fired because you're a 40-year-old black man, and they just don't like the way you look. You're the old guard, and it's just not a good look for them. And all their friends are witches, gay, and his, her, him, her, his, and ours. And they're just with the new. They're with the new stuff. They were cute when they came out. We allowed them some space, and they took a mile. And now it's coming to replace you. Now, if you read the books, those cute people that were coming with their little weird lifestyles and their little weird alternative ways, they were always coming to really want to kill you. Mm-hmm. But the way they approached you was through fashion and through like a popular experimental popular culture, because popular culture when they came through was actually normal boys and girls. And then they came in the fringes, but they came in as accept us, and now it's get the hell out. So that is the culture war, to take the long way, not start a French Revolution and kill everybody and just take over the king, kill the royalty on the streets and take over. Then it didn't work. So now they're saying, you know what, we're just going to wait, and we're going to put our professors down there, we're going to put our doctors, we're going to put our lawyers in there, we're going to get our judges in the courts, and we're going to teach everybody through these institutions to get rid of God, bring in the devil. And it's literally they're putting up satanic statues all over America. They're putting up Baphomet statues all over America, which is even more than just Satan. It's like an actual mathematical type thing that they're basically saying, but it's an inversion principle.
Explain inversion.
Well, the satanic or the devil or the dark one or whatever, the adversary, he's not a creator, he's an inverter. So the power of adversarial energy comes from inverting creation. It's not so much about gay women, it's about gay men. It's about taking the pole of the masculine electrical bolt of energy and raping it and inverting it up its own energy. And that more than negates and neutralizes him, it inverts him. So energetically and magnetically.
It turns him on itself.
Turns him on itself, and it possesses him with an entity, the Vigo Vigo of crushing a man's insides like that. Causes so much pain, and it's so unnatural, and it's so reverse that it goes up and it shoots up nervous trauma that actually fragments the mentality because it's going through so much pain, and it creates an altar. So it means that you can actually train that man. He's actually been through so much pain that he's now being possessed. He actually been through so much pain now that he can be coded, he can be trained, he can be conditioned. So when you see men that are broken in prison, the reason they're walking around flamboyantly is because, not because they came there like that, but because there was so much trauma in being raped that they had they opened a portal in that person's soul that allowed the seat of the soul to be hijacked by another entity, i.e. a demon. So this is kind of deep. I don't even know if I can even say this on a podcast, but when you study Vigo Vigo and you understand demonism and you understand how to talk to people and understand where gay boys come from, and then you understand like how many gay boys you know and how many you've seen in life, and you start to see that they have 89% of them act the same, walk the same, talk the same. That's not a coincidence. That's called a spirit. If they move the same and talk the same in different countries, in different states, in different regions, that is not what happens when you get raped. That is a spirit that's in you. That's why it's the same. So when I started to learn, I've always known that in a way, you know what I'm saying? But then I started to study, and then eventually they were like, yeah, whenever you get raped like that, it's such a traumatic thing because of the way the man is made. You know, to put something that large up, something that ain't supposed to have nothing up there, actually causes so much trauma that it actually breaks you. It breaks you psychologically to where you're like, dude, this is not even happening. I'm not even here. I'm out. And that is how MK Ultra, that's what they understood whenever the doctors, the Nazi doctors were torturing people and messing with people so much, they understood that you could torture somebody to a level to where they can be fragmented and then sub-compartmentalized. And through that sub-compartmentalization, you're actually restarting another consciousness. So if you want that consciousness to be a hacker, if you want that consciousness to be a sexual person that actually beds people and compromises people, if you want that person to be a killer, if you want that person to be a sniper, if you want that person to be a contortionist or somebody who climbs buildings, you can train that person. So taking over, so basically with this shadow government and with this whole like monarch programming and this butterfly programming and this whole eyes wide shut and this plant just messing with people and creating these sleeper cells, these super soldiers. But that's really serious, about as serious as it gets. And of course, you know, that's when my dad would come in. But that's just the way it is. Even when I'm in a garage by myself, it's boom right there. But I'm starting to realize that's this energy. But no, that's how the devil works. That's very old. And you know, even though we found out in our generation that they were doing it in the 50s, that's an old stuff. That basically comes back to Acts 19:19. The girl that was the actual median, the median that was used. 16. Was it 16:16?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 16:16.
When they were using her for witchcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, witchcraft puts a prophesy.
That's a lot of sexual deviancy at an early age. That's so traumatic. And they actually do that in satanic organizations. That's how they keep these people. They call them sexual ritualistic abuse, SRAs, sexually ritualistic, satanic ritualistic abuse. And they have babies killing babies. They have made babies slit other babies' throats and everything, like to get them conditioned to do what they want to do. But it's about taking the psyche and decompartmentalizing. So when you understand, when you go to San Francisco and Seattle and Portland, these people that you run into are what they call narcopaths. They're psychopathic and narcissistic. So that even though they're crazy and they look crazy and you can't be serious, they're not going to stop. So once they get a hold of your energy, they're coming for you, and they'll do anything. So people are very scared when they walk around there. So that's why how I got known is because I put up my faith in my quantum entanglement. I was like, well, God got me. So when I got there, they was just like, I mean, imagine you fired Whistler and then you go to California and try to set up a shop. Like, I'm Blade. And like, you what, nigga? And so it was on. As soon as they get wind, and that's the scariest part is when everybody like, and then they start knowing, and then people like, oh my God, he's gone. He's out of here. They got him. And then we just get into it, and then it's just like I'm still walking around, and then I get to the point where I get over them, and I get used to them, and then I start laughing at them and messing with them, and then that's when I start changing them, because according to even their scientists, you ain't supposed to be able to change these people, but something's got to win out. It don't matter how crazy you are, if you have a counterfeit spirit, what do you think you're gonna do to me? If I'm quantally entangled and I'm within the conduit, and I'm within the mycelium, and I'm within the placenta, you're just looking stupid. You're just trying it all day long, but at the same time, people getting to learn that this dude's got something that's got these people coming out and showing themselves in their element and how crazy they are. That's why I make the joke about great as Diana, is because when you see the possession, you start to understand on a higher level. Even you go through scariness, but it takes a few years to get through it. But then you start to really theorize, and you start to intellectualize. This is electromagnetism. That's how you possess people. That's why you have 5G towers. It's because they understand about stuff about you that you don't want to understand about yourself. Is that you are electric in your masculinity and you are magnetic in your femininity. Every person has a masculine and a feminine pillar of energy. Once they start messing with it and playing with it and turning it into acronyms and weird little pornographically distort things, they're messing up perfect alignment. And then that's when the devils and the demons could like take advantage of it, because you got all these discongruencies that actually are ports and portals and stuff, right? And it just, when you go to these places, even though it's scary, even though it's right in your face, even though it's like being the only blood in Long Beach and was full, it's just like you got to be crazy, but you're going to learn a whole lot. You're going to learn a lot real quick. You're going to understand why they name things the way they are, why they put this building right here, why do people say this, why the witches always wear the same color, why they wear the purple hair, why they wear the black and white all the time, why they do the checkerboards. You're going to start to see how it works together, why the Masons are over the Bloods and Crips, why when it's time to kill Nipsey, they do it a certain way, why when it's time to kill Pac, they do it a certain way, why do they kill certain people, why are 21-year-old rappers being murdered off wholesale. Why? Because you got to deal with energy. You have to balance. It's checks and balances. There's a matrix. Even rappers know that there's an evil side of rap and there's a good side of rap. If you're getting killed, usually you're getting sacrificed and your energy's being replaced in an evil part of the matrix. You're never going to hear about Talib Kweli and Common getting killed because they're on the other side of the matrix of rap. They still love niggas that are on. They got niggas that they love. But they'll never fuck with them because they understand that they're running in a dark world on purpose. They know it. DMX stands for the Divine Master of the Unknown. Why would that dumbass man purposely call himself that? Because he ain't dumb and he know what the fuck he doing. He's purposely being dark. He called himself the Divine Master of the Unknown. That perfectly is dark. The Locks with Jadakiss. You know what their real name is? Called the Warlocks. Them niggas ain't dumb. But P. Diddy's smart enough to realize that's not gonna work. We're gonna call you the Locks. So these people are dark on purpose, doing dark things, having dark lyrics, because they're working with dark forces, and they're getting money and they're getting the women, but it's all based on a covenant that they have with sorcerers and warlocks. Kendrick Lamar explains all this in his music, but because he's a tweener, you know. But there are people who don't mess with that, and they'll take a pay cut because they don't want to mess with it, and they'll stay in the lame, happy hip hop side of rap, because they purposely will make their lyrics to put you in a higher frequency. You know what I'm saying? So when you go to New York, dude, these people, they might not go to church, but man, they're understanding about what I'm saying. The esoterics about you know what it is, because New York is such a witchcraft state. It's such a witchcraft city. If you know anything about witchcraft and about dark magic, it's all over the place. Kali, the goddess of destruction and darkness and recreation, her face was on the Empire State Building. That's the patron demon of the CERN project in Geneva, Switzerland, where they're opening the Large Hadron Collider. The Large Hadron Collider is opening portals into other dimensions, and they're bringing things through. This is like the bottomless pit in Revelations. Like I've been on. Come on now, I had y'all on this for years. This has been going on. So when you see crazy stuff going on, don't forget. Even though there's too much stuff to remember, don't forget. 10 years ago, these niggas was opening up portals in different dimensions and letting stuff through. So when you see crazy stuff happening, it's like, bro, come on. I mean, if you really read Revelations and you're living through it, it's too much to process. I'm not gonna lie. But if you pay attention to Iran, and if you know what Gomer is, and if you know what Gog and Magog are, and if you look at and you follow that, I mean, look at the news, look how close we are to World War III, and look at Revelations. You know, it's like it's perfect. And then when you look at the way the weather is about to change, the way Nibiru is close to planet Earth right now, the way Wormwood, the Destroyer. Yeah, it's not funny. That's why I say macrocosm, microcosm. When we're trying to, when they stormed the Capitol, that looked like the biggest production / psychological operation I've ever seen in my life. And to me, the way I'm trained, that means we should have been looking up, because they gave you something that you couldn't take your eyes off of, which means you probably should have been looking up. So that means when they're doing some stupid stuff like that, that means in the demon and angel world, it was a really big day in the news. It was like a big selling day. It was a big something happened, and that's what I'm on right now. Is like the heavenly hosts is what's going on. We have a demonic incursion, what's going on, but what happens is the lower fourth dimension is full of demons, the upper fourth dimension is full of angels. When all of a sudden all the demons are down here, that means that they're doing something to the fourth dimension. That means shit's coming down. Just think about it like that. Just think about it like if you were in a building and you were just like a 2-3 year person out of graduate school working for a big firm, and you're on the first 4 floors, and then they start shutting floors down, and the people who make a lot more money than you are coming down. They better than you, they're bigger than you, they'll kill you. They're crazy, you know what I'm saying? These are Wall Street niggas. They're like demons walking around because they're powerful, and you have to watch out for them. But they don't like you, and they don't like the fact that they're down sharing you sucking up their air. I mean, that's basically what's going on. It's like a point. There's a deep impact. There is a critical mass going on in our dimensions right now. The demons are being shut down to this third dimension, and they're running around here messing with people. And that's why you see homicide is up 34%. You know, you got rape, and all this crazy stuff is up because these demons are actually part of. And remember, the Illuminati card game, one of the cards was a demonic incursion, a demonic infestation. That's what we're seeing. But the demonic infestation makes sense if you're talking about these niggas opening up portals, letting shit through. It all makes sense to me. I just want to let people, like, how long do you want to survive it? Because you're going to have to start getting more of a healthier, not like, namaste, man, it happens, but like, you know, just, you know, you have to kind of understand, like, this shit got to happen. We got to get in this, and then this, and then this, and then. So our lives, remember, we're still in the good part. But this shutdown, the man-made disease that shut down the world, is also a chance to kind of like, it's their way of shutting your shit down and messing with you, but it's God's way of saying, this is your inventory time, this is your fasting and praying time, this is your village time.
Right. This is the way I think about it is like Exodus 12. Right, Exodus 11 and 12, where you have your last plague and you have the blood on the door.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so basically, the angel of death is going around wiping out Egyptians, and the angel of death comes to visit Goshen. But if they have the blood on their door, they follow directions. They stay in the house and they put the blood of the lamb on their door. They're good. So it's about being marked. It's about being marked and actually being truly affiliated with God. Like, those, again, it can't touch you. But if you're not in the house, if you don't have the blood of the lamb on you, if you are not basically following the direction that God provides, you're gonna be out there. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, is that I think a lot of us find ourselves out there. And again, you've described and articulated very well the larger forces that are at work. Because, honestly, most people be like, it's just bad stuff happening outside. It's cold outside tonight. Why everybody acting crazy? They stormed the Capitol yesterday. People run around with their phones on and CNN breaking news, and they going to impeach the president. There are larger forces that work in the world, and they translate or they manifest themselves in human behavior. And this is why we see such volatile behavior, such hatred, such vitriol. So much, such the language is, people are so vehemently, spewing all this hate toward each other, and you see it, and it's like, man, they must not like black people. No, fool, it's bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? They want to take their country back. No, they're desperate. What you saw was the act of a bunch of desperate people on that day, because at the end of the day, they realize like their world is coming to an end, right? But what world is it?
It's the world of Esau. Esau is a scripture that says that Esau is the end of this world and Jacob is the beginning of the world that is to come. So, and the thing about it is, I've talked to you about what I told you about the ecumenical councils. Why they look like South Florida golf, like in country clothes? Where was the brothers at? What no Hebrews in these ecumenical councils? Why? Because they'd already pissed off God with the Deuteronomy 28 proclamation of these curses will come for you if you don't follow my commandments, and if you don't follow my statutes and my laws. I'm gonna take all this from you. So don't get mad when you see the ecumenical councils and you see Council of Nicaea, and all of a sudden all the good books like the Book of Enoch are taken out of the Bible. Baruch and Book of Jasher and stuff like that are taken out of the Bible, because think about it. Those books, if you put them back, give you all your incriminating information for who are the Illuminati, for who are the Knights of Malta, for who are the Knights Cathar, for who are the and all the motives that they would have, the bloodlines that they would go back to, and the ultimate beginning of the seed. Why are we at war? Well, who taught us war, according to the Book of Enoch? Who taught us witchcraft, according to the Book of Enoch?
Fallen angels.
Come on. So if you just take if you take witchcraft and warfare. Sorry, I gave it to you already. But the point is, they're teaching computer programmers and they're teaching smart kids Warcraft. That's like one of the biggest games. It's not one of the cool games like Fortnite or like Halo, or it's not like one of the games that your son wants or nothing like that. But if you're talking about computer, like guys who play computer games, like they're on their computer, not their PlayStation. Like they're serious gamers. Warcraft is the game. Why? Because it's not a bunch of decisions and algorithms, and you got to follow stuff for months, and it's big time strategy. But what is it training them? It's training them to be fallen angels. You're training soldiers for fallen angels, because they're not beating anybody up, they're not shooting anybody, but they're strategically tearing people apart. So when you put this person back into Seattle and back into San Francisco, and you put them back into the tech world, well, now what is he going to do with his enemies? He's going to take them out one by one. He's going to slowly figure out how to destroy people, because you're training him. these cartoons that these guys are watching and these videos that these guys are watching and these games that these guys are playing, you got angels and demons. Guess which ones that they're featuring? I mean, think about all your Japanime. Think about all your cool cartoons. Think about all your games. What do you think they're featuring? Angels or demons? So, what do you think our popular culture is? What do you think democracy means etymologically? What do you think a Democrat is, etymologically speaking? What do you think this world has really been influenced by, angels or demons? I told you, the lower fourth dimension is full of demons. The upper fourth dimension is full of angels. If we're being infested and if we're being insurrected and if we're being inundated, who do you think's doing it? What department do you think is doing it? So that's what it is. That's what's hard for people to understand about this world. They don't understand where they at and what's going on. They don't understand. They literally can't put their head around what's going on to them, so they'll never be able to wrap their mind around it.
Well, Ephesians 6 and 10 is a scarier scripture. It's Ephesians 6, 10 through 18.
Yeah.
We wrestle not against forces of this world, but against principalities and wickedness in high places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that's you don't want to read that in your devotion. That's people want to read around that, or either they want to kind of gloss over it because the idea of wicked principalities being in high places, right? That's foreign to a lot of people. It's I need to be wrestling against my boss at work. No, it's bigger than your boss at work.
I'm telling you, it's the reason why people start killing each other when they move to South Chicago and when they move to South Central Los Angeles and Compton. And then you take those people and you move them out and they never kill again. And they don't even have the feeling to run around and throw up no sets. They don't even, and if you meet these people, they're just regular, they go back to regular people. That's what scares the shit about me is I meet the people in Seattle and they straight out of their GDs. They're literally gangster disciples from the projects of Chicago. And they the coolest niggas out there. And they just can't get enough living regular life where they don't have to kill. Right. And then they'll stop and tell you some stuff, scare your ass, and then go right back to just being there. They can't because they're like Michael Jackson. They get to be a kid again. Like they can't get enough of the fact that I don't have to run for my life. I don't have to stab someone. I don't have to act tough. I can actually have fun. And the last thing they want to do is be hard. But they the hardest dude around. You know what I'm saying? Because they're in that. They're under the Prince of Persia. They're under the King of Greece. They're under the King of Tyre. They're under these spirits that are like, if you're going to live here,
you got to murk somebody. Just facts.
Facts.
Facts on facts. You got to murk someone.
You ain't got to be no thug. You can be a regular dude.
Got to murk somebody.
So I believe that because I've actually lived around people who, and they can't explain it. And it's funny because I'm thinking that in the back of my mind, like, these niggas is under principalities and powers. I don't even know. I'm like, nigga, why you acting so, nigga, you goofy. You are goofy, but you can't tell them that in the city, you know what I'm saying? And he will switch, if you trigger them, they'll switch, but they just don't like it. They don't like to be triggered. They don't like to fight. They don't like to get into nothing. They like this life because they got the relativity. They understand what it's like to be under these spirits. Because even when I probe, I'm a prober. I be asking, they be like, I don't know. It just, I don't want to go back there. You know what I'm saying?
Please don't take me home.
It's so traumatic because it's like, bro, I can't explain why I act the way I act when I'm there, but it's just you have to. They can't explain it because spiritually, it takes over from their intellectual. Right? The spirit part takes over.
In the words of Robert Downey Jr.'s character on Tropic Thunder, survive. That's what it is. Survive. I mean, that's bottom line. So I mean, it's again, you strip people's humanity down, and I mean, this is what you get.
That's why they don't move. That's why a lot of them don't move. Even when they visit somewhere and they realize that all they gotta do is work a job and I can just pay rent and not have to kill people, sell dope. Yeah, I'm going back. You know what I'm saying? People go back to New Orleans. People go back to Chicago. People go back to Baltimore. People go back to East St. Louis. Because once it's in your system, you don't understand. You try to rationalize it, but it's spiritual real estate.
Their soul's poisoned.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we've been seeing, and even with this current pandemic, I mean, the soul of people is being poisoned.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, social media, look what it's done. But again, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. We probably should kick it in here. Remember, you could always follow us on the ether if you're on planet Earth. This is the Project Restoration Podcast. Leroy Tolliver, Landis the Lesser.
I've been trying not to go off the deep end. Give me a reason. I've been trying not to go off the deep end. Give me a reason. I've been trying not to.